for the past 50 years in this country, the religious right, a political movement, convinced a lot of Christians in America that the two most important issues were abortion and homosexuality. Two issues that aren't really discussed in Scripture. And so it's remarkable to me that you have an entire political movement using Christianity to prioritize two issues that Jesus never talked about. And to focus on those two things instead of feeding the hungry and healing the sick and welcoming the stranger, three things we're told to do ad nauseum in Scripture, to me is mind-blowing.
State Rep and Senatorial candidate James Tallarico there from the Ezra Klein podcast from earlier this week. It's Friday, January 16th, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch. Rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier, diving a bit deeper into polling that we touched on yesterday, that Emerson College polling Nexstar Media survey showing Rep Tallarico with a 9-point lead over primary challenger and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Talks about the governor's race as well. Democrat and State Rep Gina Hinojosa essentially standing solo as the favorite to be nominated, but facing an uphill battle as expected, really, against Governor Greg Abbott in November. The poll shows an 8-point lead for Abbott over Hinojosa, 50% to 42%, with 8% undecided. This is unsurprising, of course, that Democrats will have to dramatically overperform to win in Texas. And it's worth remembering that with everything else happening with Republicans nationally at the moment, the political winds are very much at the Democrats' backs. The Texas Tribune also notes a massive financial advantage for the governor. This, too, not a shocker, but the man is definitely loaded for bear. $106 million in his war chest, $23 million of that raised in just the second half of last year. Tarrant County State Senate candidate Taylor Ramette has overcome massive campaign cash disadvantages in recent months, and he framed it earlier this week for us that it's really expensive to spread bad messages, but good messages tend to spread a lot cheaper. The $1.3 million that Gina Hinojosa has raised over the last quarter came mostly from small individual donors. And she says about that, quote, "I'm so grateful to be running a people-powered campaign that's fighting for a more prosperous and affordable future for working Texans. Greg Abbott can keep lining his pockets with the money he gets from selling out working families, but across the state, we're seeing Texans fired up and ready for change," unquote. At Progress Texas, we're intimately familiar with the value of individual financial supporters, and we commend all of you who have supported Democrats and supported us as well in this crucial midterm year. Pushing that polling on the Senate race to November reveals some interesting stuff as well. Also an uphill battle for Texas Dems as expected in November, but curiously not so much when it comes to one of the three Republicans on their primary ballot. Unsurprising that incumbent Senator John Cornyn leads James Tallarico by 3 points and Jasmine Crockett by 5 points. But more surprising, perhaps, that Congressman Wesley Hunt, highly unlikely to be nominated, also leads both Democrats by similar margins, while both Crockett and Tallarico poll here in a tie with Attorney General Ken Paxton, who could very easily end up the nominee. The most hardcore of Texas MAGA types deplore John Cornyn. Will they serve up a vulnerable candidate amidst a national blue wave? We shall see in just a few weeks. It's important to note here that Donald Trump has not yet made an endorsement in the Republican Senate race in Texas, and if he does, that's likely all she wrote. Troubling news regarding ICE in Texas as the death of a person in their custody is looking like he may have met a violent death. Jeff Abbott and Aaron Martinez at the El Paso Times write that the death of Geraldo Lunas Campos, a 55-year-old Cuban migrant held at the Camp East Montana ICE facility in El Paso, is being investigated as a possible homicide. While ICE initially cited medical distress as the cause following a January 3rd incident concerning Lunas Campos, preliminary findings from the El Paso County Medical Examiner reportedly list the cause of death as asphyxia due to neck and chest compression. Witnesses, including another detainee, allege that 5 guards choked Lunas Campos as he struggled while being moved to a segregation unit. The detainee reported hearing Lunas Campos repeatedly cry out in Spanish that he could not breathe before he fell silent. He is the second person to die at the Fort Bliss-based facility since its opening in August of last year. And according to Ashley Fields, at the Hill is one of 4 migrant deaths to happen in ICE custody just over the first 10 days of this year. part of a sharp recent increase in migrant fatalities, with 2025 marking the deadliest year for ICE detainees in over 2 decades. The other 3 2026 deaths are attributed to possible heart issues or drug withdrawal-related causes. The death of Geraldo Lunas Campos is the only of the 4 this year so far to be investigated as a potential killing at the hands of ICE officers. Our friends at the Texas Observer have been on a roll lately. We've been talking about the private schools that have been kept from profiting from Governor Abbott's new voucher scam, so far anyway, due to efforts to exclude schools with Muslim or Chinese ties. It turns out that a bunch of the schools that have made the cut at this stage happen to be private schools that openly discriminate against Texas families on the basis of religion, sexual orientation, or gender identity. The billion-dollar taxpayer-funded program opens in just a few weeks on February the 4th. But an analysis of the 291 so far enrolled schools reveals that a great many present significant barriers to what any reasonable observer would call education freedom. Over 90% of them are church-based, and about 40% of those prioritize or require students to share their faith views for admission. About 60 of the confirmed voucher benefiting schools, about a quarter of them, maintain policies in writing that openly forbid admission to LGBTQ plus students, citing religious stances on marriage and gender. There are issues of finance and geography as well. More than 180 of Texas's 254 counties lack an enrolled school serving grades 1 through 12, and about a third of the approved schools charge tuition rates that are higher than the standard $10,474 voucher. While Governor Abbott's voucher program claims to prioritize students with disabilities, of these 291 schools, fewer than 12, just over 4%, offer any kind of comprehensive special education services. And if that wasn't enough, some of these approved institutions have been found to be using textbooks and teaching materials that have been flagged and dumped by public schools for pushing racist historical narratives. And while the program was promoted as an opportunity for Texas kids to escape failing public schools, some private school leaders have openly admitted that they intend to prioritize the families of students already enrolled in their schools over new applicants. Those $1 billion of your tax dollars are on the way to subsidize existing private school tuition bills rather than expanding choice for the underserved. Before it even launches, Greg Abbott's voucher scam is what we feared it might be. It forces taxpayers to fund all manner of discrimination as it provides a kickback to some of the wealthiest Texans. Also from the Texas Observer, investigative journalist Francesca D'Annunzio on Tangles, which is a sophisticated AI-powered surveillance and open-source intelligence platform used by law enforcement and government agencies to search, monitor, and analyze data across the open, deep, and dark web. Law enforcement in Goliad County's use of Tangles is highlighted by D'Annunzio as a significant erosion of privacy rights through warrantless geofencing. By purchasing commercial mobile data via this tool, police can bypass the Fourth Amendment requirement for a search warrant, creating a pathway to an end run around judicial oversight, allowing law enforcement to track the movements of thousands of unsuspecting smartphone users in a given selected area, regardless of whether they're suspected of a crime. Civil rights advocates, including the ACLU, are warning that this surveillance for hire model creates a dangerous constitutional loophole. While police argue the data starts as anonymous, they admit to then pairing it with drones and license plate readers to reveal the identities of the individuals from whom that data is sourced. Tangles already has a spotty history. The social media giant Meta, who are not exactly champions of protecting your privacy, have accused the developer and owner of Tangles of engaging in surveillance for hire. It's also in use by the security forces of foreign authoritarian regimes, including that in current power in El Salvador. That's the model that the cops in Goliad and elsewhere in Texas have apparently been inspired by. Progress Texas will be on location again next week in Dallas. We invite you to join us for a debate between 2 of the Democrats running for Texas Attorney General, attorney and former Galveston Mayor Joe Jaworski and Dallas State Senator Nathan Johnson, hosted by journalist James Barragan at the Dallas College Richland campus on Thursday night next week, January 22nd. Link for your required RSVP can be found in the show notes. Early voting in the March primary starts on February 17th. See the show notes for Texas 2026 March primary ballot form from the Texas Tribune that you can use right now with your home address to see who's running in the primary in which you choose to vote. Super handy, something you should have already been looking at, so check it out in the show notes and find everything you need to know about voting, including confirming your registration at govotetexas.org. Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared bold progressive values And that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded disinformation machine. While we enjoy the support of hundreds of partners, chances are that you, dear listener, haven't joined the team yet. If you're a regular, let's get you on board right now alongside Heather Rodriguez, Tammy Foskey, and Margaret Hetherington. We appreciate all three of you very, very much. Join them and the team at ProgressTexas.org. Our progressive values are hitting the FM dial in H-Town. Progress Texas has joined the lineup of the legendary KPFT radio in Houston and are now reaching voters in Texas's largest and most diverse city. And with your support, we hope to replicate this effort beyond Houston into the top 5 Texas media markets this year. Hit the link in the show notes to make your tax-deductible donation to help us reach new audiences via Texas Radio. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Friday, January 16, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media in action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day and a great weekend. We'll catch you again here on Monday morning.